Hello everyone, I'm going to teach you how to draw some complex shapes. So you'll have a worksheet that looks like this one. It's got 4 different shapes in it. There will be 2 sides to the worksheet. You need to cut it down the middle and then glue it onto one side of your page. If you're right-handed, you want to be able to see your picture on the left, so you need to glue it on this side. If you're left-handed, you want to be able to see your picture on the right, so you need to glue it on this side so that you're not leaning on the picture as you're trying to draw it. So the first one we're going to try is this cylinder here. So you need to start by drawing a bit of an ellipses. If you feel like you can't freehand draw that shape in, then you could get your ruler and you could measure from here to here and make yourself some points that you can then join up. Or you could even measure here to here as well if you want to. If you want to just freehand it, that's fine. Don't worry if it's not exactly the right measurements. We're more looking to see if you can recreate the similar shape. So below that one that we've just drawn, we're going to draw another one exactly the same. And see how I'm using little sketchy marks? I will go over those later and neaten those up, but I'm using little sketchy marks so that I'm not trying to create the perfect shape first time around, because I might not get it exactly what I want. And then if I keep going over it too many times, it's going to get too dark. So little sketchy marks is sometimes a bit better. We need to make sure that this edge and this edge are directly above and below each other. Same with this side. If this bottom one is skinnier, it's going to look like our cylinder is slanting inwards. Same if it was too wide, it would look like our cylinder is slanting outwards. So once you've done those 2 circles, you need to join the outside edges together. So you can use a ruler or you can freehand it, it's up to you. And we need to make sure that this line and this line are parallel. That means they both run directly up and down. They don't lean towards or away from each other. The next step is to place a dot in the center of both of those circles that you've drawn. And then you're going to draw a really faint line between the 2. It needs to be faint because we're going to erase it later. So make sure you're using a B or a 2B pencil. Then you're going to place 2 more marks on the edge of that curvy line that you've drawn before, and you can use a ruler if you want to. You're going to join up the center dot with those dots that you've placed on the edge there. So we're starting to create this slice that's coming out of it. So this line runs directly up and down. We need to do the same thing with these ones, making sure they run directly up and down. They're all perfectly vertical lines, so there's no angle on them. So they all run directly down. So now we've figured out where our points are on the bottom circle. So all we have to do is join that up to the center. And again, we're making sure our lines are pretty faint at the moment because we're going to have to erase some. So there's our slice. So now what we need to do is work out what we want to keep and what we want to get rid of. So if we look at where the dark lines are in the picture, we can see that this is a dark line, this is a dark line, around here is a dark line, this is a dark line, this one's dark. So when you're drawing your initial circles, can you make sure that you pay attention to the gap between the top circle and the bottom circle? They're almost touching. If you end up doing your bottom circle quite a bit lower, it's going to look like your cylinder is really, really long. So now all we have to do is erase all of the lines that are faint, and then you're left with what looks like maybe a slice of cake, or a big cake with a slice missing, I should say, or some cheese. Some people like to draw little holes in it so that it starts to look like cheese. You can do that if you want to, or you might make it into a little cake with some decorations or some candles. It's up to you what you want to do with it. You can shade it if you want to, or you can just leave it as it is. I'm not expecting you to shade it. So that is how you draw the cylinder. So maybe take a little bit longer than I did because you want to make sure that you're really perfecting it and getting it nice and neat. Okay, the next one is this Doughnut E shape. So this one we can't really use a ruler. We might measure how wide that circle is. So we might measure from there to there and then make ourselves some dots. But we can't really use a ruler to draw lines. We need to be freehanding it. So again, remembering to use those soft, sketchy marks. Pay attention to the distance between here and here. It's not really big, it's not really small. It's in between, and it's the same distance all the way around. So you need to make sure that you're keeping the same distance between those lines. And you're just going to draw another sort of squashed circle, so it's another ellipses. Making sure that it's nice and even. So it's not a perfect circle, it's a little tiny bit squashed. Then we need to draw an ellipsis here, but this is a up and down ellipsis. So it's like the circle got squashed that way instead of that way. And we can draw another one right next to it. Paying attention to the gap between, it's not too big. If we look at our picture, one of those has had this line erased because we're looking at it as if we're looking from the front and then we're looking on the inside. So once we've got those curvy lines drawn in, we can erase everything that we don't need and we can darken our main lines. So notice that this curve here is the same as this curve here. Both of those run parallel to each other.